So this past summer, I did something I've never done before. I read a book about golf. My dad is falling off his chair right now. Birdies, Bogeys, and Bipolar Disorder is a grippingly honest and insightful book by our special guest speaker, Michael Wellington. Please take home your own copy tonight on your way out. Michael is a native of St. Louis, Missouri. He is a mental health activist, public speaker, broadcaster, consultant, and professional golfer. He is the founder and chairman of birdiesforbipolar.org, an organization that helps raise awareness and funding for mental health. Please join me in welcoming Michael Wellington.
Thank you, everybody. Ashley, your talk tonight was incredible. I don't know where you are out there, but I felt like I was watching myself talk about myself. So that was incredible to see your turnaround and what you've been able to do to give back to people and what you've learned. And kudos to you. And Mr. Cavett, kudos to all that you've accomplished in the mental health world. You're certainly somebody that I look up to now as an advocate, and I hope that I can achieve some of the things that you've achieved in the mental health world. I heard your name first in the movie Caddyshack, and it's good to finally see you in person. I would like you all to use your imagination for me for a moment. I want you to have the feeling that something out there tried to kill you, but you escaped it. Now imagine that this thing didn't try to kill you once, but a half a dozen times. And that same thing is still out there killing people, ruining lives, and wrecking families everywhere. How would you handle that situation? The thing that I'm referring to is bipolar disorder. So what is bipolar disorder? By definition, it's a mood disorder, but it's also cunning, sinister, relentless, and it's an invisible killer. And when not managed properly, it's a leprosy of the mind. I had never heard of it until I was diagnosed with it in 2001 at 23 years old. The main reason is probably because my abnormal psych teacher in college let me skip class to play golf all the time, so I probably should have figured that out. But now I've got a 17-year personal case study on bipolar. Growing up, I played sports. I played all sports. I played soccer, I played baseball, I swam, I played basketball, and of course I played golf. These sports taught me how to be a great competitor. I love to compete. I love it. There's something about it that I can't even explain. I just love to compete. And in golf, when people think about golf, usually they think about, well, I went out and I shot 100, or I shot 90, or I shot 80, or professionals who go out and shoot in the 60s. But the thing that I learned early in my introduction to golf was a form of golf called match play. And in match play, it's just you against your opponent. It has nothing to do with what you shoot or the score or the amount of strokes that you put together to achieve your score. A match play is just you against your opponent, one-on-one. And every single day, I have a match against bipolar disorder. And from 2001 to 2006, bipolar disorder had me losing every match. The thing that I learned that my dad and other people instilled in me around golf about match play is when you play match play and you get your opponent down, you step on their neck. And for that stretch from 2001 to 2006, bipolar was stepping on my neck. But the mentality of a professional golfer is ideal in battling bipolar disorder, because that mindset is to get better every single day. And if you don't have that mindset against mental illness, and specifically bipolar, you're going to be in some trouble. I'm going to throw some numbers at you right now. 61, that's the lowest score I've ever shot for 18 holes. But that's not why I'm standing up here. The number 8, that's the number of hole-in-ones I've made in my life. The shortest hole-in-one I made was 110 yards, and the longest hole-in-one I made was 328 yards. But I'm not standing up here because I made hole-in-ones. The number 7 is the reason I'm standing up here. 7 is the amount of involuntary hospital stays that I've had in my life. The longest hospital stay I've had was in 2006 of 33 days, and the shortest hospital stay I had was just 3 days. There are a bunch of different ways to play defense against bipolar disorder. There's medications, there's meditation, there's proper sleep, there's proper hydration. But I want to share a story with you that I think illustrates one way to handle depression and to handle bipolar disorder. Earlier this summer, I was not doing well. It was the end of May, the beginning of June. I had just missed qualifying for the US Open. I was feeling down about myself. I wasn't playing real well. And I knew that in order to feel better, to extinguish my depression, I had to do something nice for somebody else, whether that's go over to my sister's house and play with my nieces, go over to my brother's house and cook dinner, whatever it may be. But I decided that I was going to help a friend of mine out who was going to be in Houston for his own US Open qualifier. He's a friend of mine that I grew up with in St. Louis playing golf. He's a very talented golfer named Chris Nagel. And Chris had a 36-hole qualifier in Houston to get into the US Open. And usually I drive everywhere all over the country when I do my work and I play my golf tournaments. But this time I needed to fly. I only had 3 days to get down to Houston to help Chris. He didn't have a caddy. He needed a caddy. He had 36 holes in one day and he had nobody to caddy for him. So I actually called a friend of mine in Nashville, Tennessee, named Jim Foley, and I said, Jimmy, I don't have any frequent flyer miles. Can you somehow get me to Houston so I can caddy for Chris? Because he doesn't have anybody. He's got 36 holes, and it's 110 degrees, and there's no way he can carry his own bag. And he said, yes, I'll get you there. I wasn't going there for any money. I wasn't getting paid for it. But I got there on a Sunday night, stayed overnight. Chris showed up. We had 36 holes the next day. In the morning, he shoots 69. And we're kind of hovering around the area where you don't want to be. And in the afternoon, one of the most extraordinary things happened. He birdied the 14th hole, he birdied the 15th hole, he birdied the 17th hole, and he eagled the 18th hole to get us into a playoff. And then he proceeded to birdie the first playoff hole, and we got into Shinnecock Hills in the US Open just 2 hours up the road in New York. And the moral of the story is that if you're feeling depressed, depression and bipolar specifically, they have an unbelievable ability to make you feel selfish and alone. And I just knew that if I did something to help somebody else, it would probably help me. And I can tell you that the shot of energy that I received by going with Chris to the US Open, just when we got in and to get there, was incredible. And then when we get there, he goes ahead and makes the cut, and we beat 5 of the top 10 best players on the planet. And that is an energy that could only be created when you try to do something for somebody else. And that's what I've tried to do with my book. That's what I've tried to do with my foundation. And it turns out that God didn't make me a great competitor for sports or for golf. He made me a great competitor to handle bipolar disorder. So my goal now, because I know that I have my own bipolar pinned down and I'm standing on its neck, my goal is to help other people learn how to do the same exact thing. So thank you very much for your time. God bless all of you for listening to me. Thank you.
Michael Wellington, ladies and gentlemen.